managing groups in Active Directory domain services. Now groups is actually collection of objects. We create groups to do distribute different things for multiple users. For example, restrictions or permissions or those things. So groups is actually a collection of objects. Now in this case we are talking about user accounts. So we create the user account, the group of user accounts, and name that group something, and then accordingly name accordingly, and then what we provide these different security or distribution things. Like if I want to distribute something to users, multiple users, suppose 50 users, so I create the group. Instead of sending single things, I will do what? I will create a group and make those user member of the group, and then I will send those things to a group, and then all the users will get that. And if I want to assign any security or restriction to multiple users, 50 users, 100 users, so instead of giving permissions one by one, I can create a group and make those users member of the group, and then I will provide the security or restriction to that group, and all the users will get that. Now in Windows, all the privilege, all the permissions, all the privilege or permissions users get, they get from different groups. So they get from different group. There are some different default groups are there which uses to provide the permission. So in Windows, basically users get the privilege by using the groups. Now we have different types of group. We have in Active Directory domain services, we have two types of groups: distribution group and security groups. Distribution group used only with the email application. Basically this is the email object. Email object, that means it is basically Exchange server object. For sending and receiving or for mailing services in Windows Active Directory domain, we install the Exchange services, Microsoft Exchange services. So this object is basically for the Microsoft Exchange. That means if suppose I want to send a mail to 100 of users, so instead of sending the mail to multiple users, I can do what? I can create a group and make that users member of that group, and then I will send the mail to that group. The group will have an email address also. So when I send the mail to that group, it is going to be received by all the users which is member of that group. Now in the distribution group, not security enabled. That means we can't provide security. We can't use this group for giving a security or restriction or privilege, because it is not having any SID. It is not having any unique ID. It is basically only having an email address. So we can use it to distribute, but it is not used for giving us security permissions. Now for giving us security permissions, we create security groups. The security group, this security group with the security principal, and it is with the SID. So this group we create to assign security permissions or privileges. So if we want to provide a security permission to multiple users, so we create the security group, and then we can give the permission or restriction to that group, and that all the users, all the members of that group will get that permission or restriction. So can be given permissions and can also be email enabled. Now the interesting thing is this, that security group can also be a email enabled. That means we can use this security group as a distribution group also. So we can create the security group, and also we can use this group to distribute the email addresses, emails also. So if we want to only use for the distribution, then we can use the distribution group basically for the email applications. And if we want to use the group for security permissions, then we use the security group. The security groups and distribution groups can be converted to the other type of groups. That means we can convert these groups anytime. We can modify the group, distribution group, to convert to security group, and security group we can convert back to distribution group. Now the next thing, when we try to create the group, so the two types are there, distribution and security group. Then we have scope of groups. We have different group scopes. First, local groups. Local groups contains users, computers, global groups, domain local groups, and universal groups. These are the other scopes. We have local group scope, we have global group scope, then we have domain local group scope, and then we have universal group scope. So these other scopes, these other groups which is created under that scope can be a member of these local groups. So we can make these groups like we can make the local users, computers, and global groups, domain local groups, and universal groups be a member of this group, these local groups, and from the same domain. But these all from the same domain. That means all the users or computers, all the local groups, domain groups, and universal groups, they can be member of this local group, but only from the same domain where the local group is created. Then domain in the same forest and other trusted domain can be given permission to resources of the local computer only. Then by using this local group scope, domain in the same forest and other trusted domain can be given permission to resources on the local computer. So for local computer, it can be given permission to using this local group. This local group by default it is there in every machine, in every local machine. So it is used to give the permission to that local computer. That group resides there. So if you want to give any user a permission on that local computer from the forest or from the same domain or trusted domain, so we can make that user member of that local group, or we can make that global groups or universal group can be also member of that local group. Then we have domain local groups. These domain local groups have the same membership possibilities but can be given permission to resources anywhere in the domain. That means we can use it can also have the same members, like it can have a member of the users, same users groups, users, computers from the same domain, and then also the global groups, domain local groups, and universal groups. They all can be a member of this domain local group from the same domain. But the difference from this domain local and local group is that domain local group we can use to give the permission anywhere in the domain, in the same domain. Local group is only for the local computer, and this domain local is for giving the permission to a local domain. Then universal groups can contain users, computers, global groups, and other universal groups from the same domain or domains in the same forest, and can be given permission to any resources in the forest, and that is why it is called universal group. That means we can use this universal group and to give the permission to provide the permission for the users or groups in the whole domain and the forest, anywhere in the forest we can say. And it can contain the user and computers and global groups and the other universal group as a member. Now here you can see that domain local group is not a member of this universal group. Then global groups. These global groups can only contain users, computers, and other global groups from the same domain, and can be given permission to resources in the domain or any trusted domain. So global group can contain the users and computers and the other global groups from the same domain, and it can be given permission to resources in the domain or any other trusted domain. Now what that means, we have these local machines, local computer. So on that we have local groups, and local group can have a member of the user accounts and computer accounts. So we can make the user account and computer account member of that group. Then we can make the global groups, domain local groups, and universal group from the same domain and the same forest, and the other terrestrial domain can be given permission to resources on the local computer. So we can make this local group member. This is the local group. We can make the member of the domain. This is our same domain where this local computer is there. So if in the domain, if we have any global group we created in Active Directory, so it can be a member of this local group. If we created a domain local group, so it can also be a member of this local group. and if we have a universal group created in Active Directory in the same domain, so it can also be a member of this domain local group. Then also it can be a member of the from the forest. That means if suppose we have other domain, other child domains here, so if we have any other local global group created here, so it can also be a member of this local group. If we have any if we have created any universal group here in the other domain, so it can also be a member of this local group. Then if we have user accounts created in domain, then they can be a member. If we have computer accounts, then they can also be a member of this local group. Now this group is used to provide the permission only on this local computer. That means if we have any resources and we want to provide the permission to that resources, for example, we have a folder here, and in that folder we have some data, and I want to give this data, I want to make this data available for these users, which is member of the local domain users or computers, or the member from the global group, or the member of the domain local group, or the member of the universal group, or from any other universal group from any other domain within the single forest. So I can give them permission on this local group. I can give the permission to this local group, and by the local group these other groups can get the permission, and by the other groups the users which is member of that group can have that resources, they can access the resources. Then we have domain local groups, and they have the same membership possibilities. That means if suppose we have a domain local group here, this is the domain local group, so it is also having the same possibilities. That means it can have a member as a local global group, universal group, and also from the other domains, also from the same forest. Then what it can do, this domain local group, it can use to give the permission on the resources within the domain. That means this domain local group is under this domain, so all the resources under the domain, this group can have a permission. So if we have a share folder here in this machine, folder here in this machine, so we can give the permission on this machine, this folder to this group. If we have other machine available here, other data available here, so it can also use to give permission on these directories, these data. It can have a permission on other resources on the domain, but only single domain on the same domain. And by using this membership, like this universal group from this domain is member of this group, so it can also get the resources from this domain local group. Then we have universal group. Now universal group can have member as a users, computers, and global groups, and other universal groups. So if suppose we have universal group created here in this domain, so it can have a member as a users from any other domain. Any other domain, that means users can be member of this domain's user can be a member of this group. From the other domain, if we have some user, it can also be a member of this group. If we have some other global group here in this domain, so it can also be a member of this. If we have in the same domain we have global group, it can also be a member of this group. If we have universal group in the other domain, then it can also be a member of this group. Then this universal, as a name says universal, that means it can use to give permission on any resources available in the forest. That means if you have any resources here, so we can give permission to this group. If we have resources in this domain, we can give permission to this group. If we have resources in any other domain, we can give permission to this group. And by the member, by giving this permission, any user or other group member of this group will get the permission. Then global group can only contain users, computers, and other global groups. So if we have a global group here, so it can only have a member as a users, then computers, and then other global groups as a member, but only from the same domain, and can be given permission to resources in the domain or any trusted domain. That means it can be given resources for the domain and any other trusted domain. Now when you have multiple domains in the forest, they are all trusted, so it can also get the access from the other domains in the forest. So we can give the permission on other resources of the resources from the other domain, because they are trusted, so they can get the permission on this group, and by this group the users can get the permissions. Now this is the scope for creating the groups. Then if we want to implement the group properly, then this is the known option. This is the best practice for nesting the group, is known as IGDLA. This is the known practice, that means it's the best practice to do that. Like if you want to make a proper permissions, and if you want to make this to properly nesting, that means you make users computers member of some group, then that group will be member of the other group, then that group will be member of the other group. So we can do that by using this best practice. It is called IGDLA. Now I means identities, that means users or computers which are members of the domain, members of the group. So these are the users or computers which is going to be the member of the groups. So it is I. Then next, after I is G. Now G means global groups, which collect members based on members' roles, which are members of other group. So we have, suppose there are global groups, and these are the identities. These are the member of this sales group. Then in this domain we have the group auditors. This is a global group, and these are the identities which is becoming the member of this global group. Now after global group, we do what? We make that global group member of the domain local group. So after the global group, we make that global group member of the domain local group, which is member of the which is inside the which is the domain local. That means it is only for this domain. And then means what? We make these groups member of this domain local group, and domain local groups which provide the management, such as resources access, which are under the domain. And then what? We do the assignment. Assigned resources. So finally we give the access to the resources, whatever the resources we have: computers, servers, files, data. So this is the best practice to do this, to do the nesting. And the other universal group, basically the universal group can use to give permission anywhere in the forest. So you can use it to give anywhere, like you can make the user member of universal group, and then you can give the permission to that group anywhere in the domain, anywhere in the forest. So that is the different thing. But if you want to use this global group and domain local group, so this is the best practice. First, make these identities, that means these users and computer accounts, member of the global group, and then these global groups make the member global group make the member of them, make this group member of this domain local group, and then use this domain local group to assign the permission on these resources. Now these global groups can be from the same domain and can also be from the other domain, so that the other domains user can also have the resources on these other domains, the other domains of resources from the other domain. Now when we want to create the group, so we can create it from the Active Directory. Now for creating the groups, we can create it from Active Directory users and computers. We can create it from the administrative centers. So we can go on to select the Active Directory users and computers. And we want to create the group. So we can select the user container and then new group. Now when you select the group, it will show you this option here. And it says here that provide the name for your group. So for example, I will say this is the name for my group. Now this will be the name for the pre-2000 machine. And now it is saying what will be the group type. You want to create security group or you want to create distribution group. And then It is saying that group scope. What scope you want to create? You want to create domain local group, you want to create global group, or you want to create universal group. The local group option is not available here because local groups are the default groups which is available by default in our machines. Whether it is a server machine or a client machine, Windows 10 machine, those local groups are already there. These are default built-in groups. We can see it here under the built-in container. So those are the local groups for the local computer. But we can create the group domain local, we can create global group, we can create universal groups. So based on the requirement, we can select what scope we want. And then based on the requirement, we can select what we want. We want to create security group or distribution group. Distribution group basically used in Exchange server for using the mailing, for using the mails, for sending the mails, and it is the object of Exchange server. Now I want to create the security group and I want to create global, so I will say OK. And now we can say it is created here. This is our group and this is our security group. Now when you go to the properties of this security group, you can see the name here, and you can add the description also, and then also you can add the email address. So if you want to use this group to distribute the email, then what you can use, you can assign the email address to this group also. Now once you assign the email address, then you can use this group for doing the distribution also. That means you can use the group as a distribution group also. Then we can convert this group from security to distribution anytime. Then this global group can become universal group, but we cannot change back to local group, domain local group, because domain local group is for the local domain and we have directly created the global group, so it is not going back to domain local. It can go up to universal group, but it will not go back to domain local group. Then here we can see the members. Members, that means the other users, computers or other groups which is member of this group. So we can see here all those members of this particular group, or if you don't see here, that means you can add it here. So you can add other groups member here, other groups as a member here. Then in member of, we can make this group a member of some other group. Members, that means members of this group, whether it is users or computers or any other groups like, for example, domain local groups, global groups or universal groups. Then member of, that means this group will be member of some other groups, maybe global group, other global group or other universal group or domain local group or even a local group. I will create one more group. And let's make it domain local. Then I will create one more group. Let's make it universal. Now this is our domain local group, and it can also convert back to universal group, but it cannot convert to global group. Now this domain local group, I want to make members. I want to make member for this domain local group. So I will go add, and I will go to find the sales here. Now the sales is now member of this domain local group. Sales is our global group, and this is now member of this domain local group. Now we can add universal group also. Now universal group can also be a member of this domain local group. So these are the member of this group, and then this group can be a member of other group. Let's say I want to make this group member of the local group. So I will go to add, and I will go to advanced and find now. If you don't know what group you have, so you can find here what groups you have. So let's say I want to add this user into these are predefined groups. So let's say I want to add this to this DNS admin. So now this HR group is member of this DNS admin group, and these accounts and sales is member of this HR group. We can also see this here in sales, that these they don't have any member, but they can have a user as a member, and this user, this HR is this group is member of the HR group. So this is how we can create the user groups, and we can make them member of the other group. Now I will try to change this group from security to distribution. I will click here and say OK. Now what it is saying, you are converting the security group to distribution group, and if this group is used, if it is already used to grant or deny permission on a network resources, members of this group may lose the access or gain undesired access. Are you sure you want to continue? Now we are converting it, we are not creating a distribution group. So it says when you change this to distribution group, so all the security permissions or restriction you have used assigned on this group will be lost, and the users which is restricted, they will get the access, and the users which is granted the access, they will lose the access. So I know what I am doing. I say yes. Now it becomes the distribution group. As you can see here, it is showing the type here. It is a distribution group, and it is also a global group. So we can change the group type anytime, but when you change, you have to make sure that this group is having which permissions on which resources, and who are the member of this group, because it is going to be affected. Now managing group membership by using the group policy. Now we can have an option to manage the group permission by using the group policy. Group policy, that means we can force the users to be a member or force the group to be a member of some particular group. This is we can use by the restricted groups, and it can simplify the group management, and both local and Active Directory domain services group can be managed from the local this group policy object. In the group policy object, you can go to group policy Windows settings. In the policies Windows settings, you have security settings. Under the security settings, we have restricted groups, and here we can create the restricted groups. Here we can add the restricted group here and the membership of that restricted groups. That we can do it from the group policy. So we can add members, and members can be added to the group, and the group can be in other groups. So we can go on to select the group, and then we can make the member of this group, and also we can use this group be a member of the other group by using the group policy. Now as I said, there are some default groups available. Those default groups available for providing the default permissions. Every permission, every restriction what the users are getting in Windows is getting from the groups. So when we install the Active Directory services, before installing the Active Directory services, there are some built-in groups are there, and after installing the Active Directory services, we get some extra groups. For that extra permissions which we have, we can distribute the permission to different users. So we can carefully manage the default groups that provide the administrative privileges, because these groups typically have broader privileges than are necessary for most delegated environments, and often apply protection to their members. For example, we have enterprise admin group. This user contains a container of the forest root domain. That means the member of this enterprise admin group can use to give the permission to entire forest and root domain. Then schema admin, this user containers of the forest root domain. That means this comes with the Active Directory, and it is the members of this group can have a permission on the Active Directory schema of the forest. Administrators group is the built-in group, and it is the built-in container for each domain, and it is having the permission for all the administrators. So all the administrators are the member of this administrator group, and the default built-in administrator is also member of this administrator group, schema admin and enterprise admin, and also it is a member of domain admin group. This user contains of each domain, and this domain admin has the permission on the particular domain. Then server operator, it is also a built-in, and it is used to provide the permission on server. Account operator is used to provide the account operator operation permission, and it is also a built-in container for the domain, only for the domain, not for the forest. Backup operator is only for taking the backup and managing the backup for the particular domain. Print operator is for the managing the print operation for the domain. And certificate publisher is a cert publisher. It is also for the same domain for managing the certificates. And many other default groups we have in the domain, and we can see them here. First, in the built-in, you can see the built-in groups. These groups are built-in, that means before installing the Active Directory domain services, these groups were there. These groups were there previously also. And previously, when there was no Active Directory, all the users were member of this users group. Now, after installing the Active Directory domain services, we have these domain related groups, and all the members, all the users, all the normal users are now member of this domain users group. Then we have these domain admin, domain computers group, domain controllers group, domain DNS admins. These are all the domain related groups we have. These are many other groups to do the different to give the different privileges for the users for the specific domain and for forest also. Then we have special identities. Now these special identities, basically you will not see it in Active Directory, not even in the built-in accounts. You will not see this. This does not see. It is actually special identities. These are these special identities are groups of for which membership is controlled by the operating system. So these are special identities, and membership of these special identities are controlled by the operating system. Then can be used by the Windows Server operating system to provide access to resources based on the type of authentication or connection, not on the user account. Now these important and special identities include the anonymous logon, then interactive, authenticated users, everyone, and creator owner. Like for example, if some user creates some object, some data, then he is the creator owner, and he has the identity of creator owner. Now everyone, this will not show in the not in Active Directory, not in built-in, but it is used to give permission to everyone. Then authenticated user, that means the users which is authenticated to the domain or authenticated to the system. And this will also, you will not see this also anywhere, but this means what? It is actually used to give the permission to authenticated users. Anonymous login, logon, that means it is used to do the anonymous logon for some services. Interactive, that means for the interactive logon, and for the network resources. These are some special identities you will not see normally. So if you try to find it here under the user, you will not see those identities. If you try to find it under the built-in, you will not see these. But you can see that, like for example, if I try to share some directory, if I try to share some directory, I'll go to advanced, I want to share this, and when I go to permission, I can see everyone here, everyone as a group. You can see the two heads here, that means it is a group, but it is it is actually you will not see anywhere. It is a special identity. And when you go to security, you can see the creator owner here. This creator owner is also what? It is a special identity. And when you go to advanced permission, and if you want to select the permission to some, so I will say authenticated users, and I can see this identity here. It is selecting the identity, but normally it does not show. If I go on to select the advanced and I say I want to find, so here I will not see these authenticated users. It is access control, account operator, accounts, administrator, and here I can see the special identity, authenticated user, and also anonymous login. So when I try to give the permission, then I can see it in advanced permission. So normally you can't see that in the group, but they are there. They are still there. You can't see it here, but they are still there. And those are called special identities. Those are managed by the operating system. Now, managing computer objects in Active Directory domain. Now, what is computer container first? Now, computer container is actually having the accounts of client machines. So when we create an account, when we make a machine a client of our domain, so that machine account will be created under the computer container. So for example, so in our domain, Active Directory domain, Active Directory users and computers, in the domain we have this computer container, and in this container we see all the machine accounts, and we can see these accounts. These are the client account, like client computer, so it has a computer account. So when we make any machine member of the domain, it creates the account here under the computer container. This is the default location where it creates the computer accounts. And we can see the properties of this computer, that this is the name of the computer, and this will be the DNS name, domain DC type, it is workstation or server. We can see the operating system of that server, that machine, and these computer accounts will be member of the domain computers group. We can delegate the some permissions on these. We can decide the location of this machine, and we can also put the dialing setting for this account also. Now, how we'll make the member? So we can make a client and the account will come here. Like for example, we have Windows 10 machine and we make that machine member of this domain. And this is our Windows 10 machine. So first, before making this machine member of the domain, we have to make sure the IP address is properly right. We have to make sure this machine is within the domain, and the machine must have the same network IP, and also this is important to have a DNS server IP. So DNS server, that means our domain controller is itself a DNS server, so we have given the IP address for that, and it must resolve the name. DNS must be working. So if I try to ping the server with the name, then I should get the reply, and I'm getting the reply. That means DNS is working properly. So we can do what? We can make this machine member of the domain. We go to this PC, right click, go to the properties of this PC, and it will take us to the settings, and from here we can go on to select rename this PC, or we can go to advanced setting. It will take us to this, where it is saying right now it is under the work group, so we want to change it. So we'll go on to change, select the domain, give the domain name, and when I press OK, it will search the domain, and domain will ask that on which authenticated user you have a right to join the domain. So that is what the administrator we have, or if we have any other user we have given the permission to join the domain, So we can use that account. Now it is authenticating, and when it is authenticated, welcome to the site.com. That means welcome to the domain. I say OK, and OK, it is saying you need to restart, and it is now restarting. Now after the restart, it will become member of our domain. An account for this machine will be created on that computer container. And now it has become the member of the domain. Now the domain users can log in here. We can see the domain name here, sign in to, and users can use the domain like this, and then username for logging in. Now this machine is a member of a domain, and we can see it on Active Directory, the account for this machine. And here in this computer container we can see the account of that machine. It is not showing here, so I will do what? I will refresh, and I can see the account here. This is Windows 10. We can check the properties. We can see that this is the name of that machine, and operating system is Windows 10 Pro, and it is also member of the domain computers group. So this is what the container, this computers container is the default container where all the machine accounts is created. Now that is the default location for the computer account, but we can specify the different location for the computer accounts also. So best practice is to create the OUs for computer objects, and servers are typically subdivided by server roles, and client computers are typically subdivided by regions. This is the best practice, that servers are typically subdivided by the server role. That means what the server is going to do. So based on that we create the different OUs for them, and clients computer are typically subdivided by the region, like different country, different city, different places. We can create the different account different OUs for different computer accounts. Then divide OUs by administration to facilitate the configuration with group policies. We use these OUs for applying the group policies for better administrations. So we can change these we divide these computer accounts to different OUs so that we can make sure that we can provide the proper policy restriction on those OUs and those computer accounts and server accounts. Controlling the permission to create computer accounts. Now in a delegation of control wizard of the OU, the administrator is creating a custom delegation for computer objects. That means we can control the delegation for the OU, that who can create the computer object. That means who can make the member of that OU, who can make the computer member of the domain. So we can control that by using the delegation of wizard on the OU, and then we can select this that computer object. Who can create the computer object? We can add the user or group, and then we can decide who can create the computer object. Now how to join the domain? As we see, very simple. We go to the system properties, and then we select the change and give the domain name here, and then it will ask for the authentication. We will provide the authentication, and then when we press OK, it is saying you need to be restart, and then when you restart, after the restart, it will become the computer, it will become the member of our domain. Now by default, when we make a machine member of a domain, account of that machine comes to this computer container by default. Now if you want to move them somewhere else, then what we should do, we should create a separate OUs for them. Like for example, I will create an OU here, organizational unit, and this is for Mumbai users, and under that, let's say we have some servers, so I will create OUs for servers. Then we have some client accounts. And this OU for the client accounts. So by default always it will create here, by default it will create account here under the computer container. Now this is our client account, so what I will do, I will select and move it to this. I will select and move it to this client OU, and when you select this, when you move this, it will say that the OUs you are moving the object, then what you are moving the account, so group policy of that OU will be applied. You will say okay, I know that, and now you will see the account is moved from the default container to this client container here. And servers, so for example we have these servers, server 3, so I want to move it to here, so I will do what, I will move it to this OU container. So if already we have an account, so we can move them here. Now if you want to create by default, if you want to create the account directly under this OUs, then what you can do, you can create the account before joining the domain. Like we have server 2 and we have not joined the server 2 here. So what I will do, I will create an account here, computer account, under this OU. Now I will say this will be my server 2, and this will be the user who can join the domain is the domain admin permission it needs. So it is the this is the user who can make this client machine as a member of the domain. I say okay, and nothing else we have here options, so I will press OK. Now what I did here, I created the machine account before adding the machine into domain. Now when I try to add that machine server 2 in the domain, so what that machine will do, it will first actually check whether any account is already there or not. If the account is already there, then it will merge the account with that computer account. If it is not there, then it will create here. So let's try to join the domain, that server 2. And this is our server 2. The name is server 2. The name must be right. And right now it is in work group, and IP addresses are properly configured. Now I want to join this server into our domain. Remember, the account we have already created. So I will change and I say I want to join it to domain. Authenticated user account. Welcome to the domain, and you need to reboot. Okay, it is started. So I will log in as a domain admin. Now this one becomes the member server. It is a server operating system. It is a server machine, but not a domain controller. So it is called member server. It is a client. It is same as a client machine in our domain. So now this machine is under the domain. It is member of the domain. Machine name is server 2. Now we are under the domain Active Directory. Active Directory users and computers. Now where the account goes, so I will refresh here, and now you can see it is not showing here the computer account. So I will go to this server OU, and we can see it is already there. So when I go to the, now I can see the server name, I can see the operating system also, and this is now member of the domain domain computers. So what it has done, we have created the account before joining the domain, and we have created the account directly under this OU. So when we join the domain, the account is merged with that account here. It attached with this account. Otherwise, if we have not created the account here under this OU, it was created under this computer's container. So by default, every account goes to this computer container, So if you want to move them for better management, you want to move them to other OUs, then you can drag and drop it, or otherwise you can just create the account there and then join the domain. Now computer accounts and secure channels. So computers have accounts. So every computer, when we join the domain, they have an account. The account have a same account name and password. Then used to create a secure channel between the computer and the domain controller. So when you try to log into your system, so it actually creates a secure channel from that client machine to the server, so that when the user logs in, they can use the resources securely. Now there are some scenarios in which secure channels might be broken. So if it is broken, then what? When you try to log into that machine account and when you try to use the resources, you will get errors. So reinstalling a computer even with the same name generates a new SID and password. So when it is broken, so these are some scenarios when it is broken, when you reinstall a computer and even with the same name, but it generates a new unique SID and password. So it will not be the same account. Even you are creating the reinstalling the machine with the same name. Then restoring a computer from an old backup or rolling back a computer to an old snapshot. So if suppose you are having a backup, you have taken the backup of your computer and you are restoring the backup, so it might change the SID or might not connect the domain properly. It will be a broken SID. Then otherwise, if suppose you are rolling back a computer on an old snapshot, that means if you suppose you are using the virtual machine and you have created the snapshot and you are rolling back the snapshot, again it can be a broken channel. Then the computer and domain disagreeing about what the password is. So sometime it is disagreed with the password. The password we don't configure, it is automatically generated actually. Automatically generated when we join the domain. Now sometime it is disagreed because of these other options like reinstalling from the backup or reinstalling the operating system completely or taking rolling back the snapshots. So this can lead to the disagreeing of the password. So in that case, the machine account will be broken. Now what will be the solution for that? So what will be the solution? Very simple. Do not delete a computer from the domain and then rejoin it. This creates a new account resulting in a new SID and lost the group membership. So if suppose if it is not properly connecting, then you should not remove the account. You should not delete the account. That means do not right click on the account and delete it. Otherwise what happens if you delete that? It will do what? It will remove that SID, and when you rejoin the domain, it will create a new SID, and that SID might not have the permissions, like you have given rights or given permission on some resources. So that new SID will not have any permission on those resources. So you will lose the membership, you will lose the access of some resources. So never never delete the account. You just have to do what? You can use these tools. You can use the command line tool, NL test to test the connection channel. You can use the netdom also to check the connection. Then you can check the user and directory computers or administrative center or from the PowerShell or DS mode. Whatever you use, you can do what? You can just reset the account. So for doing this, for resetting the channel, what you should do? We should reset the account and then rejoin the domain. That means for example, we have these accounts. So if it is not properly working or if it is giving error for accessing the resources, so we should not right click and delete. If we delete, then it will lose the SID, and if you rejoin the machine, it will join it with the same name but new SID, and that new SID will not have the same permissions which that old machine has. So we should do what? We should right click on the account and then select the reset account here. Either you can run it from the PowerShell, you can run it from the command line DS mode command. Whatever you do, you just have to reset. Whatever the tool you use, you have to reset the account. You have to click the reset the account, and then what? You go to that machine, that Windows 10 machine, and then change rejoin the domain. Rejoin the domain, that means first change to workgroup and then again join the domain. so that it will reset the account. Do not delete the account. If you delete the account, we lose at the SIDs. Now we can perform an offline domain joining also. This use offline domain join to join computers to a domain when they cannot contact a domain controller. Now in this scenario, what we can do, we can join the domain unless we are not connected to domain. Remember, when we want to join the domain controller must be connected. Now if suppose in some scenario domain controller is not possible to connect, like suppose we are working on some remote site and that site is now not having the connection to join the domain, to connect the domain controller is not there on that particular site, and domain controller is located on the other side, and we are now the WAN connection is not available and we want to join the domain. So what we can do, we can do the offline domain joining. For doing this offline domain joining, what we have to do, we have to first create the file for the domain information. Like we use a machine which is already a member of the domain. We go to that machine and create the file with this command djoin, and we use the command provision. This is what for doing the domain joining provision, and then /domain, we mention the domain name, then the machine. Now here we will mention the new machine name, the machine which we want to join the domain, then the save file, and we will mention the file path where we want to save the file. So this command will do what? It will generate the file, and it will generate the provision file, which file in that file it is having the information about the current machine which is joined to the domain. Like for example, the Windows 10 machine is already a member of the domain, so I will run this command on this machine. So it will create a file which has the information about the domain joining. Then we use that file and then take to that machine, which machine is not able to connect the domain controller, and in that machine we will use the same command djoin, that is domain join, and then here we will select request ODG. ODG means offline domain joining, and then we say load file, that means the configuration is load from this file, that means we use that file here, save the file here, and then we'll mention the file path here by using the load file path, and then we will mention the Windows path, that means the Windows directory for the operating system. Like in this local machine which we are joining, that machine's Windows directory, that system directory which is under C drive, like C:\Windows, that is our system directory. So we will mention that, make this will define the operating system actually, that this operating system I want to do the offline joining. And then after that we reboot the system, and it will do what? It will become the member of the domain. Now it has not connected the domain controller. Remember, domain controller don't know about this client machine. This is joined offline. This machine information is not there in the domain controller. But whenever the connection is available, this machine will update the information to the domain controller that I am there. But we can make that machine, we can join the machine offline. For that we have to create the file, and then we can use that file to join the domain. Very simple. So for example, this is my machine Windows 10, and it is already a member of the domain. So it is already a member of the domain, Windows 10 machine. We can see that this is the machine name, and this is already a member of the domain. So we can generate the provision file here. We will use the command djoin provision, and the domain here we will mention the domain name, then the machine. Now machine, that means we will mention the machine name, like for example the machine which we want to join. So I say like client Windows Win2, and then I will mention the file path. Now the file path where I want to create the file, so I want to create the file under the C drive. I will create new folder here. provision file. So we run this command djoin provision domain name, machine name will be the new machine name, the machine which we are trying to join, and the save file, and we are saving the file under this directory, and the file name will be win2. We can give any file name. So it is created now successfully. The file is created successfully. We can see it here. This is the file, and in this file we have the configuration required to join the domain. So we have this file, and it is having the required configuration. You can't see that we have the required configuration to join the domain. Now we will take this file to the other machine which we want to join the domain offline, and we'll do what? We will run the other command. Other command, that means djoin. This time we'll say request offline domain joining, and we'll say the load file from here, the location of the file, and then we will mention the Windows path. Windows path, that means path for the Windows directory. That will define the operating system. Then when we press enter, so that machine will become the member of the domain, and then we have to reboot it. I'm not going to run this on this machine because it is already a member of the domain. So when you run this, it will say it is going to run this, it is going to be a member of the domain, and you will say reboot the system, and after the reboot it will become the member of domain. And this is how we can join the machine offline when we are not having the connection directly, we are not having the connection to the domain controller. So when you run this djoin command, it will run generate the file, and also it will create the account on the domain controller. So while you are creating this file, this machine which is already joined the domain must be connected to the domain controller, and it will do what? It will create the account on the domain controller, and then when we join the domain, this machine, it will not require to be connected. Because it is not connected, that is why we are using the offline domain joining, and after that whenever the machine will come up and connect the domain controller, it will attach the account with that account which is created by this command, previous command, that domain join, djoin command. So this is what to manage. This is how we can manage the domain accounts, the computer accounts in our domain controller, in our